Hello, listeners. You are listening to... I want to say listen twice. Fucked up. Hello, listeners. You are receiving through your ear holes episode 12 of 8-Minute Movies, Alienated, a podcast about the 1979 movie Alien in 8-minute chunks, presented by me, Kieran, and him, Peter.
Hello.
Hello.
By the way, I would have changed listeners rather than listening.
There's no time for your notes now. How are you doing on this day, Peter?
I'm doing all right. I have a little bit of a sore arm because I had a flu jab yesterday.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
Suck it up. It's better than having the flu.
It is. It's really not too bad, but it's a little bit sore, and so I've decided not to practice the piano today.
You wouldn't impress the drum teacher from Whiplash with that sort of attitude. Oh, I don't want to practice the piano. I've got a sore arm.
Don't know. I've never seen Whiplash.
Nobody's seen Whiplash. It's just GIFs on the internet. He makes him drum really hard, and it's bad for him. That's
well, I'm definitely not drumming.
But he becomes a good drummer.
Seems like it's got an unhealthy message.
Yeah. I think he becomes a good drummer. I don't know what the end. Maybe he dies. Maybe he's forced to drum too greedily and too deep.
Dies of bad arms.
Wow. Yeah. No piano for you. That's true. When I had my flu vaccine, I didn't play the piano the next day either.
Well, yes, but those two things are unrelated.
I remember once when I was in an accident and my dad called me to make sure I was okay, and I was like, well, the doctor says I'll never be playing the piano again. And he was like, what? Why? And I was like, because I couldn't before. Come on, keep up.
How are you?
How am I? I am doing all right. This is our spooky Halloween episode. Woo. I mean, it's not really. We're recording this on Halloween, but you'll probably hear it in December. So
yes.
The spookiest Christmas of all. Woo.
I mean, we're talking about a horror film, so it's always a little bit spooky.
Yeah, but this is the spookiest episode because, well, I cannot say. Oh, that's what's the oral equivalent of clickbait, Peter?
When
you say something and you're like, we'll answer that question later in the program.
I don't know, because you don't need to click, you just need to wait. So I guess it's wait bait.
That doesn't sound right to me. I'm not happy with that. I want you to come up with a better one before the end of the program. And we'll tell you listeners what it is at the end of the show. See, I did it again. I'm really good at it.
I might not have anything.
What? Well, don't tell them that you're useless now. They'll just tune out.
We can't write those checks. Have you heard this podcast?
No, I try not to listen to it as much as possible. I edit more or less at random.
Well, I suppose. I mean, it's become traditional to have a topic to talk about before we get into the film, and I suppose this time we are coming with the same topic.
Gasp! And we'll tell you what that is, listeners, later in the episode. No, now it's
right,
now.
Right
This is the point in the episode.
Yeah.
Well, we have the same thing to talk about because we went outside to a thing yesterday, wasn't? Oh, yes, that's right. In the real outside world.
In the world.
So, we went for a rare excursion into the real world to go to the Ice Worlds Festival at the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich. And I thought it was a great day out. It was basically a chance to see and speak to people from the British Antarctic Survey, and they would talk to you about their work and what was going on, and show you science experiments involving melting ice cubes.
Yeah, it was really nice. There are lots of people there from the Antarctic Survey, as you know, as long-time listeners will know, we have contacted them in the past.
We did look around for that poor person that we emailed last time, but didn't find them.
Yes. Um, uh, excuse me. It was very interesting and in many ways worrying because as you learn when you're looking around exhibits by the British Antarctic Survey, as you learn, much of their work is involved with drawing graphs where things are looking increasingly grim. Things are going into the red. And so there were a lot of those around because obviously a lot of their work is concerned with melting ice in the Antarctic and predicting how that will happen and what maybe unpredictable effects or currently unpredictable effects of that might be. And it's in many ways grim.
Yeah, they showed us a mock-up of what London would look like if sea waters rose by 50 meters, which is the absolute worst-case scenario. And the positive thing about it is that it will probably lower house prices.
Yes.
We saw a lecture on ice core drilling, and it came to quite a sobering end when they were just going through and asking the audience questions, and somebody was like, "What's the scariest thing you've found in an ice core?" And they were like, "Evidence that the ice caps are melting faster and faster, and if we don't do something about it now, the human race will go extinct."
Yeah.
Like, oh boy.
Yeah. The sad thing is that I knew that would be the answer. I knew that the answer wasn't going to be just spider eggs, lots and lots of spider eggs. No, it was just going to be the most alarming thing that we've seen is our imminent doom
is man's hubris.
Yes.
I had my fingers crossed for The Thing, but if they found that, they wouldn't tell you, would they? Conspiracy.
You asked a question as well early in the presentation. You asked about
Yes, it was a fairly bland question I asked to get everyone talking because everyone was just sitting there without their hands up. So I was like, how deep did you go with the ice drill?
So you did a little bit of an icebreaker question, which probably isn't honestly helping the situation in Antarctica. Yeah.
3.5 kilometers.
Yeah, 3.5 kilometers, which they helpfully just went back a few slides and said, "Oh, here we showed you the answer to this question a couple of slides ago." So
they skipped over it. It wasn't like I wasn't paying attention. Also, they didn't. It wasn't on that slide. That slide was just showing you, like, what the different thicknesses of ice were in Antarctica. So I'm going to edit this bit out so you don't sound smarter than me.
No, I thought that you might have just wanted to sneak in a little icebreaker question, and after you did, lots of people did have different questions as well. And
I like to think of myself as the social lubricant.
Sorry, I don't even have a thing to say to that.
Wow, I finally found how to shut you up. Yeah, so they had a lot of stuff there that you could do. Yeah, I was most disappointed we couldn't get into any of the make your own penguin costume activities, but I think they looked at us and were like, "You're both almost 40," and we're like, "Yes, indeed." But I still want to make my own penguin costume.
Well, I mean, later on when we were on our way out, they started announcing the start of the penguin parade, and the radio kind of started cracking up, started breaking up. So you're only getting some of the message in what seemed like the beginning of a kind of horror scenario where someone gets murdered by a lot of angry penguins.
We just cut outside, and it's like a black and white beak rising, dripping with red blood.
Well, we saw that diagram of the larger extinct penguins.
Oh Christ! Okay, so they had a graph that you could stand against to compare your height with penguins. And first of all, I didn't realize that emperor penguins are really big, like sort of person size. They're like 4.5 feet tall. But
yeah, you only really see them in comparison with other penguins in film mostly, don't you? So it makes sense that you don't really understand the size of them.
But it's even more of a nightmare. Like, there are 3 extinct varieties of penguin, which are 2 meters tall. Jesus Christ. Like, I couldn't talk to a penguin 2 meters tall. It wants my wallet, it's...
Right. No, I mean...
It's here to do crime.
There's nothing else that exists that stands in that way, right? So it's a very strange thing to look at, because you feel like if something like that approaches you, my instinct is to kind of introduce myself or doff my hat. It's a very strange creature.
Listeners, you should see him at a giraffe enclosure. Doesn't know what to do.
Most giraffes don't stand on 2 legs, though.
The ones that do are considered very arrogant.
I feel like their form factor is very different to humans, but this is just like that just looks like a person in a penguin costume.
And of course, actually outside, they had the RRS Sir David Attenborough, their new flagship boat, which of course has on board the unmanned submersible Boaty McBoatface.
Yes, which, if you don't know the story, which you might not, it was there was a competition, an online sort of competition, a vote to name it, and so someone put Boaty McBoatface, because you can't put just an open to everyone survey on the internet and expect that not to happen. Boaty McBoatface won by a considerable amount, but they decided, maybe they can't name their flagship Boaty McBoatface, so they went with the number 2 winner, and just named one of the little boats on board it, one of the little submersibles on board it, Boaty McBoatface.
It won with 124,109 votes.
Yes.
The top 5 suggestions, well, going from 5th to in top of the pops order. Jesus Christ, the top of the pops. They even do that anymore? Were a countdown. That's the word I don't remember. Countdowns. Okay, so at number 5 we've got It's Bloody Cold Here, which I feel like is another one that would have got hand waved away. The Sir David Attenborough at number 4, the Henry Worsley at number 3, Poppy Mai at number 2, and then at number 1 with 33.5% of all of the votes, Boaty McBoatface. Oh boy.
So that was there. We went outside, we took pictures, we went to Nando's. I haven't Nando'd for almost 2 years. A good time was had by all.
Yeah, no, I had a great time, and would heartily recommend you go, except it was a 3-day festival and it ended yesterday. So you just can't, sorry.
That ship has sailed, literally, probably at this point. The ship has sailed.
Yep, it left Greenwich at 7:56 this morning.
Ah, yes.
Yep. And sailed away, presumably to the Arctic.
I didn't even mean for that to be wordplay. I just realized when I said it that the ship has literally sailed.
Yeah, we could tell from how awkward it was. That's fine. You don't have to to clarify. Although it has given me ideas for the next one of those I go to, should there ever be like another sort of British Antarctic science exhibition. My two go-to techniques now are I'm going to go in there like as a climate change denier, right? And like be very vocal about it. And then when I speak to one of them, just be like, you've really turned my life around, and just make them feel like, they've totally convinced me in one afternoon, just to sort of pep them up a bit. You know what I mean? Because it's a pretty tough job. And like, just, I feel like doing that would really help them out. Or maybe not. I don't know. That one's on the back burner.
Yeah.
But definitely my next go-to technique if I'm ever in a seminar situation where they're like, and now you can ask the presenter questions, is I'm just going to go with really awkward and strange personal questions that are not related to the topic at hand. Like, they're like, does anyone have any questions? Like, oh, what's your favorite film? What shoe size are you?
Yeah.
Intrusive and strange and definitely not related to whatever's going on.
Yeah, I mean, would they like it perhaps that their life outside of ice science is getting acknowledged? Who knows? Like I said to one of them at the time, I had a colleague who was very skeptical about the sea level rise, because they were demonstrating how land ice is much bigger contributor to sea level rise than sea ice. And this colleague of mine had said, I just don't really understand, because so much of like icebergs and things are underneath the water. Then what difference is it going to make anyway if that ice melts? And I didn't really know at the time I had this conversation with a colleague that there was a difference between land ice and sea ice. But I did think at the time, probably, I reckon the science probably thought of that. If you write into the British Antarctic Service and survey and point that out, I think they're not going to say, "Well, shit, I've wasted my life.
What a fool you've made of us."
Yeah, you've solved it. Great. Back to the let's reindustrialize everything. We're fine.
To the carbon
actually.
pumps.
Yes.
I do think like awareness is very important. Obviously, like one of the people we were speaking to there, a lovely person who took us through a couple of science experiments, was saying, people think, stuff happens in Antarctica, and Antarctica is literally, half the world away from here, but it affects everything we do. Like, if there's suddenly like, a ton of extra seawater, then that's going to be real bad here, living as we both do on a floodplain.
Well, it's just so big, and people don't really know, because it just looks like this little thing at the bottom of the map there, but it's just massive.
I do feel sorry for them as well. Like, there's a lot of ignorance, not necessarily willful ignorance, but just that we were at a display of like fossils that have been recovered from Antarctica, and there was a man who was sort of getting louder and more incredulous about them finding fossils in Antarctica. He's like, "Why don't they just sink?" And it's like, "Well, Antarctica is a continent. It's like, it's rock. It's got a rock base. It just has ice on top of it. It's not all ice. It's not like a big old ice cube."
I believe the reason it doesn't sink is because of the backscatter effect. I think we covered that in the Thing podcasts. Yeah.
He was so pleased with himself yesterday because he just managed to stop himself from going, is it difficult to measure the reflectivity of the continent because of the backscatter effect?
I felt like bringing up that bullshit science reason that they bring up in the Thing, which just doesn't exist.
Hang on, it might have a different name. It's just we're assuming it's completely made up, because if you Google the backscatter effect plus ice, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Which, listeners, is the extent of my research for anything in this podcast. Google the name of it and give up after a handful of minutes.
It's just a term that feels plausible.
So, we went to a thing about ice and we enjoyed it. It was good. Don't fucking ding me. Don't ding me. You're not allowed to ding.
I am.
Before the rules are explained. All of these count against you in the final scoring. Many people assume that because I'm a participant in the game, I can't be an impartial scorekeeper, but I assure you I can be. All right. So, do we introduce the concept? We've been trying to get away from it in every way possible.
Shall we break it here and now?
Um,
I tell you what, the compromise is let's do a really quick summary. Let's not do the usual kind of full explanation of what's going on here. Let's just catch people up who might want to go back and listen to the older podcasts. How about that?
Previously on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a podcast where we watch films in 8-minute chunks, and we're doing Alien at the moment. And because we are most of the way through that film, probably the best way to listen to this podcast is to go back and start from the beginning of the series. And we'll explain the whole thing from there several times in each subsequent episode until you get to this point again.
Yeah. Oh boy, you can get to listen to us like awkwardly go through that at least 21 times. But no more.
So now that you're caught up, welcome back.
Remind me after this to introduce the concept from my template for the podcast notes. Otherwise we'll come back up with this. Listeners, if we introduce the concept from here on in, email us and we'll disregard your email. So wow, okay, cool, awesome, yeah, podcast. This is a bit of the podcast which is called Let's Not Talk About Alien.
All right, what topic do you have for me today?
I'm did you notice I changed the title? I don't know if you noticed.
You actually changed it because you previously called it "Let's Not Talk About the Thing." Even though we're not.
I mean, it was always literally true. We were not talking about the thing.
Well, yeah.
I want to talk to you about Tom Skerritt.
Tell me who and why is Tom Skerritt?
Thomas Ray Skerritt, born August 25th, 1933, is an American actor who has appeared in more than 40 films and more than 200 television episodes since 1962. Wow. He's known for his film roles in MASH, The Dead Zone, Top Gun, A River Runs Through It, and, of course, Alien. He's also appeared in the TV shows... He's also appeared in the TV show Picket Fences, earning him a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series in 1993. He was born in Detroit, Michigan, the youngest of 3 children, and after graduating from high school served a 4-year tour of duty in the United States Air Force as a classifications specialist. I don't know what that is. Skerritt made his film debut in War Hunt, produced by Terry Sanders, released in 1962. Other notable film appearances include MASH, Harold and Maude, he's credited as M. Borman, Ice Castles, Contact, Space Camp, Top Gun, and Captain Dallas in Alien.
He was in Space Camp.
He was in Space Camp. Wow, Peter, you've seen a film.
I've seen that film.
I'm so proud of you.
Go to space.
Jinx and Max are friends.
Oh, I just wanted to curb stomp that robot, honestly. Oh, you know the bit at the end of Short Circuit 2 where they just smash him up? Just that, but Jinx. I too have seen Space Camp. That's one of the films that I've seen more than 5 times. I think we've spoken about that before.
Yeah, I think I might have actually only seen it 4 times, so I don't know.
Oh shit. Halfway through working on the film Ice Castles, he received the script for Alien, a film that at the time he understood was going to be an inexpensive film, perhaps $2 or $3 million, with no director attached, and he turned it down. A month later, he got a call from Gordon Carroll telling him the budget had been increased to $12 million, and Ridley Scott was due to direct. Skerritt had seen The Duelists, which at the time was Ridley Scott's most recent film, and he was so impressed with the high production values that he took the job immediately. In a 2013 interview, he said he'd thought, "Oh God, I'd love to mentor with this guy to watch him and see how he works." He said, "I'm still a blue-collar kid off the streets of Detroit, so to have the gift of working on a film like Alien with Ridley Scott, just those 2 things were enough. Then I saw those massive sets at Shepperton, which at the time was the world's largest soundstage, and I thought, this is something special.
It's got to be really impressive to be on a large set.
Oh, yeah. I would have loved to have seen the Nostromo set, because it was made as a giant set, like with all interconnected rooms, which is quite rare.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always kind of wanted to visit a really big set. Because it seems like it'd just be really immersive in a way that just a kind of room with a bunch of green screens in the background wouldn't be.
You're going around a set for a TV show that you're very familiar with. It's actually quite a weird experience because you're in the room and you're like, wow, this is the very room, and then you're like, there's no ceiling, there's no fourth wall, and if I go through this door, there's nothing. There's like 6 inches of corridor.
I'm pretty sure that Hill Valley place from Back to the Future still exists somewhere, and you can just go there.
Wow. What, like the movie, the whole...
Just that square where the clock tower is.
Wow. That's quite impressive, if there's anything to back that up.
I need to look that up.
If it's not, then you just seem like a madman.
I'm sure I saw someone say that they've gone there recently.
Yeah, it's just I'd just be surprised. They don't normally keep very large sets, obviously, because if you did that indefinitely, you'd run out of space, and it's not always necessarily like possible to know which films are going to be hugely popular and get those things stored so that people can enjoy them in the future.
Yeah, it's in Universal Studios, Hollywood.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, you can go there.
Oh,
I've been to Universal Studios Hollywood, but I don't remember going past that. I feel like that would be really vivid in my memory if I had been past that. And I'm pretty sure I did go on the backlot tour as well, and I can see the little tram things in this picture, but I have no memory of seeing that clock tower.
I went to Universal Studios Hollywood while coincidentally in LA, and I arrived too late to go in, so I just wandered around the outside a little bit sadly, ate a burger, and then went home. So I'm of no use here. I don't know what's inside. Introduce the game with the bells.
So yeah, the reason that I rang a bell earlier is because
quite incorrectly, by the way.
Correctly, this has never been a rule before. You're back writing this rule in.
You haven't. Like, it's not my fault if you haven't read the extended rule set. Like, you know.
Well, you'll have to mail me a copy.
I will.
This is a little game we play for no good reason. If one of us says the word thing or things, and we're not talking about the movie The Thing, we're not talking about the monster in that movie, and we're not talking about this game that I'm describing right now, then the other person is allowed to ring a bell like this. Ding. And that means that the other person has transgressed, and at the end of the podcast series, the person with the highest number of transgressions gets put in put in the stocks, and for 12 hours someone gets to throw tomatoes at them.
I hope it's not me. I don't like tomatoes. I don't like tomatoes at all.
That's not true. We just don't even count it, and then this whole thing was a waste of time.
There are also a bunch of other rules related to it and other words that we're not allowed to say, but the whole rules are very flexible and protean.
Yeah, there's look, put it this way, there's a bell, sometimes we ring it to pass the time. That'll do.
Very, very infrequently one of us will ring a bell and the other person will become annoyed. That's all the rules you need.
Right, eventually this is just going to the rules of this are going to drift so far that in a few podcasts month's time, it's just going to be number wang, basically.
You say that like it isn't that already. Oh God. Do you know how many of my own exasperated sighs I have to cut out of this while I'm editing it? Because it's a fucking lot. All right.
This is the proper bit of the podcast.
Fucking hell! It's time to do the podcast, I guess. That's got to be the shortest digression sequence we've had for months.
Yeah,
I don't know. You want to?
We were really going off the rails at some point.
Do you want to talk about your ingrowing toenail surgery or something? Like to pad it out by another 25 minutes?
No, I'm good. Got nothing else to talk about that you'd want to listen to.
Had any erotic dreams lately?
Oh, several.
But none that you want to commit to a recording. That's very sus. Performed any numinous works of art?
I'm not really for the performance art.
Okay. What other questions can I ask you? Ever broken a bone?
No, never actually.
Oh, had a tooth extracted?
No, but I did go to the dentist last week. Had a filling.
Oh, enamel or amalgam?
What?
Is
I don't know.
Is it white or metal coloured?
It's white.
Oh, yeah. You have to pay extra for those on the NHS. It's like a trivial amount of money though. Oh God. How many pairs of shoes do you own?
That are functional and usable, probably at the moment, 2.
Yeah, I mean functional. Not any of those display shoes that you keep around just to freshen the place up, just to to store your potpourri in. Of course, I mean usable.
I more mean one. There are shoes probably in the back of the cupboard that I technically own, but would never touch, and might be no longer any good.
All right. When was the last time you saw a dog? Yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah, it was crying. It was weeping.
It wasn't crying. Dogs can't cry.
It was. It had tears on both sides of its little dog cheeks.
It was a dog that was going for a walk with its family, and you think it was just like weeping in horror.
Look, I had quite a close look at that dog for a couple of minutes, and it wasn't just a scar or a mark, it was water running down from the corner of both of its eyes.
What do you think is going on in that dog's life that it's got depression?
Look, I'm not saying it was sad. I'm just saying it was weeping.
Oh, God. I look it up, listeners. Dogs can't cry. They are genetically incapable of crying.
All right. Well, then this dog's eyes were leaking.
Oh, gross. Oh, that's medically very bad. Have you ever touched a vole?
Don't think so.
No, me neither.
We could move on to the podcast.
Yeah, all right. I feel like we've stalled enough. Right. Okay. So with that, let's move on to the bit of the podcast where we do the actual podcast. I'm sorry we're so early this week. We haven't prepared. Okay, you got who's infected? Maybe still Dallas. Ooh, we don't know on that front. What happens next? Ripley and others prepare for escape. Do they start the countdown? Yes! There's another encounter with the alien. And finally, who dies next? Parker is singled out by the alien, cornered, and sliced. So do you feel good about your answers to those questions?
I think most of what I said there was pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not inclined to disagree.
There's a couple of details that we might quibble, but that's basically what happened, I would say.
Well done.
And we did get to the countdown, just.
Yeah, let's talk about that. With that, it's time for us to enjoy Alien. You see, it's extra spooky because this is the Halloween episode. Ooh.
Stop trying to make this happen.
Halloween in December. I was going to say, it's weird to be recording a podcast that is so temporarily desynced. Because we're like, I've listened to some of the other episodes and we're like, oh, it's so hot. And like the episode comes out in like December or January. Oh, I'm sweating here in the warmth of mid-July.
Yeah, we do try and build up a buffer of these episodes because they take a while to edit, and sometimes we're not available of a weekend to record it, and so that's why that happens.
All right. Well, now we're going to be covering 1 hour and 28 minutes to 1 hour and 36 minutes of Alien. This is a watch-along podcast, so what you can do is just watch the movie in 8-minute chunks and listen to this at the same time. It's perfectly acceptable.
No, the opposite thing to that.
I've given up. They don't listen to me. Why they disrespect me to my very face.
Yeah,
I can't make them comply with the podcast rules. If I did that, I would add stricter rules.
Look, just as I said earlier, just go back, start from the beginning, have had watched the film. That would be ideal. Or you can stagger. You could watch a bit of the film, listen to the podcast, watch a bit of the film, listen to the podcast. Not a recommended approach, but you can certainly try it.
Or you could load the podcast right into your, I don't know, like media player and put it on shuffle, and then watch every 8-minute chunk like shuffled as it comes out with alongside our podcast, and then see if it's a better film at the end. I'm gonna put my money on it not being a better film.
Well, I think that during the recording of the Thing podcast, I had an idea that you could reorder the film in the order that you liked the segments of the film from worst to best. So in theory, that means the film would just get better and better as it goes along. So you could try that.
As so often, a massive divide between theory and practice.
Yeah.
Ripley tells Parker and Lambert to go and get all the coolant they can. She'll get the shuttle ready. So, we've seen them a couple of times, and I'm not sure if we've mentioned them before. But there are little icons over all the doors in the Nostromo. Did you see them?
I think you've mentioned them, but I didn't notice them here.
So, it's a system called Semiotic Standard, developed by Ron Cobb for Alien. The full name of it is Semiotic Standard for All Commercial Transstellar Utility Lifter and Heavy Element Transport Spacecraft.
It's too many words.
Or the acronym
Bad acronym.
And the icons indicate what can be found beyond that door. Now we're going to have a fun game where I'm going to show you that shot again, and you're going to tell me what's behind the door, what the 3 icons mean, okay?
Oh, God, I wish I was paying attention to these icons now.
Yeah.
Point.
It's fine. You won't be able to get one of them. I reckon you could get 2 of them, right? So,
right.
So I'm putting my cards on the table there. I reckon you can get 2 out of 3 of these.
That's a lot of pressure. Go on. Okay.
So take a look at those 3 symbols there. So on the left, we got a red bordered like plus and a minus sign on a grey and white background. What do we think that is?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is a battery.
Right. I don't think you're going to get this one. What else do batteries imply?
Perhaps a generator?
I'm afraid I'm not going to give you this one because it's this one is for electronic systems. This one is astronic system. I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Right. So that's the one I don't think you can get. So what about the next one? Again, we've got a red border with well, what do you think that is?
I mean, it sort of looks like a person. So I'd maybe say it could be the I can't remember what they call it in the fiction, but where they're all kind of where they wake up. That place.
The hypersleep chamber.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I can't give you that. It's pressure suit locker. Look at it. It's a little spacesuit.
Okay, it is a little spacesuit. Yeah, I can see that.
Spacesuit. Yeah. And what's that final one look like to you? I'm going to give you a clue. It's not like cinema. It's not the ship's private theater.
Oh, you ruined my joke.
Oh God! Say your joke, and if it's good, I won't edit it out.
All I wanted to say was, well, that's obviously where they edit the film footage. No, it looks like a ladder.
Brilliant! It's Ladderway. Yes, excellent. Yes. 1 out of 3. I like to think I would have gotten Ladderway and the spacesuit locker, but probably not astronic system electronic.
See, I think it's a good idea having this system of icons and things around the place, but I think what they would actually do is have that, but also some writing underneath, maybe in smaller writing, to say what it actually was for.
But we've learned that the company doesn't especially value human lives, Peter. Oh,
I suppose so.
Yeah, the semiotic standard stuff has really struck a chord with people over time, and like it or like adapted variants of it often appear in like other sci-fi shows. Like Moon uses a variant of them. Ripley runs into the shuttle and starts hitting switches to activate it. We see it light up from the outside. We see the protective outer covering retract. Inside, she keeps flipping switches. We hear Parker and Lambert talking on the radio. Now remember, we spoke about this before, the shuttle, and how this is a tiny little CRT TV inside a giant model.
Yeah.
It's like that. The very direct way of doing compositing is to just not do any compositing. Instead, just put something on the set.
Yep, just have a little television.
Ironically, now it would be a lot easier with like we've got tiny like high def screens and stuff, but they would just use CGI.
Yeah.
Ripley hears a meow and realizes she's forgotten about Jonesy. She runs out of the shuttle.
It's an interesting sequence, this next set of events. I have no memory of it whatsoever, even though I have seen this film a couple of times. This must be... I've usually seen it round your house, and this must just be the point during the film where my attention wanders and I just I start looking at something else.
Yeah, I find everyone acts like Ripley is a saint for going to rescue the cat, but she only remembers him when she hears him meowing here. So, he wasn't like foremost in her mind. She's going to do the thing, and he's like, oh shit, I've got to pick up the cat.
Jeez, like I mean, I like cats a lot, but I feel like in that situation, even I would be. I've definitely got bigger things to worry about than the cat.
I like cats too. I own a cat, but I would buy a new cat on Earth.
Yeah, I would not be looking for that cat. What I would be doing is hope that the cat comes to me.
Yeah, I'd stand in the shuttle and go puss puss puss, and then shut the door.
Yeah. Sorry, cats.
Oh, does that make us bad people? Listeners, if that makes us bad people, write in.
I think that in a life or death situation, you are allowed to value your own safety over that of a cat. I feel that like that's true.
I don't want to discuss this further. I feel like people are going to be angry with us, and I love validation. So let's move on. Meanwhile, in the cargo space, Parker and Lambert push a cart along. Lambert climbs inside some sort of machine and starts pulling out canisters. So, I really couldn't find any information about the thing that she goes into here. It looks a bit like a helicopter.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of very kind of bustly, fast shots in this bit of just people moving stuff around very quickly, and I didn't really get a good sense of the space.
Yeah, so we spoke about this area before. It's like the claw room where the ship's legs retract up into when it's not landed. And I mean, we spoke about some of the other vehicles in here, like the little bulldozer with like tank treads and stuff all applied around it. But they did get a lot of stuff from Aeroplane Graveyard, so I assume it's just the chassis of a helicopter or something.
Right.
They've propped in here. Yeah, I mean it makes sense to me. It's probably some sort of advanced mining or digging vehicle or whatever.
Yeah.
But we can't find any more info, so sorry to have wasted 30 to 40 seconds of your life, listeners.
Yeah.
Parker starts stacking the canisters noisily.
In hindsight, it's probably them being so noisy that gets them. I might be jumping the gun there, but
it's the old trade-off, isn't it? You can do something quietly and slowly, or you can do it fast and noisily.
Yeah.
Which is the title of my sex tape. I don't know. I'm in this situation. I think I would be loud and noisy. Fast and noisy, sorry. Yeah, just getting those pods out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, don't necessarily fault them, but it might have been their downfall.
Remember, they haven't seen Mr. Alien for some time now. They think he's chilling in the vents.
He's gonna be nearby. He's not gone out to space for a walk.
Close to the meat. Elsewhere, Ripley climbs, calling out for Jonesy. She gets his cat carrier out of a locker. I've got a note here that says this is the second time that cat has put a member of the crew in mortal peril.
Yeah, no, that's true. And also, I feel like the whole framing of this next sequence is pretty interesting because you're switching between Parker and Lambert kind of bustling around very noisily while Ripley is in this very quiet scene being shown. There's a lot of shots that are happening here, which are which one's the right word? Trucking, maybe they're trucking.
Yeah, they're trucking
past various elements in the foreground. You know, it's like that classic kind of thing, like she's being watched. You know, and I think that your expectation as an audience watching this for the first time is that she's going to get into some trouble.
Yeah, Ripley's on her own, and if anyone's alone in a horror movie, you know what that means.
And it's usually it's the silence that is very tense in this sort of situation, and there's a lot of kind of clattering, and it kind of the other situation for whatever reason just feels safer. It's a nice sort of reversal of expectations, I suppose.
Yeah, you're really right. Absolutely, I would expect the people who are brightly lit and doing stuff loudly and quickly in a group would be the safer team.
Yeah.
And we're going to quickly find out that may not, in fact, be the case. I thought it was a nice touch that Jones has a kitten carrier and that she knows where it is, because presumably someone's got to take him to the vet and everything so often when they're actually in space dock.
Yeah.
So it's good that it's on board and she knows where to find it.
Yeah.
And here I have written the somewhat cowardly note: I would not go back for the cat.
Yep, no, we've said it before and we'll say it again. That cat would have been dead to us.
At least it would have been quick. As we may find out later. Parker and Lambert move on looking for more coolant. They separate to grab them faster. Oh, come on, guys.
I mean, it's a classic bad move, but under the circumstances, I feel like I understand it.
I think people make worse decisions under intense pressure.
Yeah.
And this may prove to be their downfall.
Would it have been fine if they were together, though? I don't know.
Well, let's talk about that in a couple of moments. Ripley stalks the corridors looking for Jonesy. She enters the bridge, still hearing Parker and Lambert on the radio. She moves around the bridge looking for him. Eventually, he jumps out, frightening her.
Not the first time he's done that.
Little shit. It actually frightened me too while I was rewatching this, because I, like you, had sort of tuned this bit of the movie out, and when he jumped, I jumped as well, and I was like, oh, well done, almost 40-year-old movie, you got me.
The only reason I didn't jump is because I had the volume reasonably low.
How do you think they shot this?
Sorry, how do you think they shot what specifically?
The whole cat jump scare sequence.
I don't know. I didn't think about it. I can't even picture it right now.
Would you like me to show you it again?
Yeah, go on then. Let's have a look. Okay, I don't know exactly. It just looks like someone flung a cat out of a hole.
Much more scientific than that. So, how they shot this bit with her wandering around and getting him, they put the cat on the chair, right? And then they stroke the cat, and they waited for him to fall asleep on the chair and get comfortable. Then Sigourney Weaver would approach, and they would press a button which made the hydraulics in the chair suddenly move, which frightened the cat and made him run away. and every time it happened, like, they had to reset with a different cat. Because obviously the cats are wary of the of the wiggling chair now, so you have to go and get another one.
How many takes did it take them to settle down a cat?
Offhand, I don't know, but again, I think it's another of those examples of things in movies where you're like, oh, that 2-second shot, that probably didn't take any time at all, when really it's like several hours of waiting for cats to be like, yeah, I'm comfy enough here. Just nod off. Don't care about these 12 people watching me with cameras.
Yeah, got through so many cats. Oh, this one knows about the system now.
What's worse?
Incinerated.
What's worse is you have to keep the cats separate from each other so they don't tell the other cats about the chair. They're like, oh, you never guess what happened, like, up there in the control room. Like, what do they make you do? Well, you sit in this comfy chair, right, and you think it's fine, and then you get a big spring up the arsehole. Ripley picks him up, gives him a cuddle, and tosses him in his cat box. Doesn't seem to be enjoying the cuddle, but you know. When do cats ever seem like they're enjoying something?
You know, you're only saying that as someone who's got a cat that enjoys nothing.
That's true. I have a terrible cat, listeners. I have distant memories of owning nice cats. My cat is a dickhead.
Yeah,
maybe that's coloring my opinion of why I wouldn't rescue Jonesy.
It's true. I mean, your cat is probably the cat that I know the best at the moment as well, just because I don't really know anyone else with cats. But the cat that I had when I was growing up was very friendly and liked to sit on laps and things, and was a bit of a softie.
We had to move the TV this morning, and my cat is still intensely distrusting of everything. She's running all over the house in a panic because something has changed. Back on the lower decks, Lambert and Parker are still pulling coolant cylinders. Lambert is silhouetted in her torchlight. Behind her, something moves.
Yeah, I couldn't quite tell whether this was alien or not at this point. It's just it looks like an alive thing, but it's difficult to see the shape of it.
I think if you rewatch it more attentively, it's pretty clear it's the alien. There's lots of like rubber excrescences all over the place.
Yeah, I tried to the second time though, and I still couldn't quite make it out.
Hang
I
on.
think someone needs to draw a diagram for me.
Hang on, I'm just going to play that bit back privately to myself and see if I think I'm right or not.
You might well be, but it's one of those things. I think that when you know what you're looking for, when you know exactly what you're looking for, you can probably see it. But I all I can see is various limbs.
Yeah, you definitely see it, and you actually see the alien step into frame in the left-hand corner of the screen. Like you can see the corner of its jaw and its claw.
Mm.
So it's pretty obvious when you know what you're looking for, like you say. Lambert turns and realizes something is there. So I want to destroy any mystique the film may have had at this point for you by showing you a deleted scene, right?
Okay.
It's a scene referred to as the infamous crab walk sequence, which I only found out quite recently, and I'm going to show it to you and see if you can tell me why you think they took it out of the movie.
Well, this is good because I feel like, based on what you're saying, that what you're about to show me might tie into a comment I wrote down later. So let's have a little look.
Here you go. Check that out.
Right, just a guy.
So it's a little deleted scene which starts with Lambert turns around and she sees the alien there, and it like points its tail at her, and that's creepy. And then at the end of the scene, like the alien rises in front of her like majestically, and she cowers in horror. And in the middle, it scoots across the floor on its bum towards her, like I would do as a toddler when I ran around the house doing a weird crab walk.
Yeah, it looks like it's just been spotted in the middle of like taking a shit on the floor or something.
It is the least dignified. Like, these are all the reasons this is a deleted scene, right? Because Ridley Scott looked at it and he was like, that's a man in a suit. That's a man in the suit doing a weird crab walk on all fours.
I mean, even the tentacle pointing at the beginning, it starts off well, but at the end of it, it just looks like it's hanging on a wire.
That's because it's hanging on a wire.
Yeah.
But oh my god, I'm so glad they took the very correct decision to excise this little scene. Yeah. Search for Alien Attacks Lambert on YouTube, and you can probably find this scene for yourself if you want to. Oh boy, if you want to watch it.
Yeah, and it does tie into something that I wrote down about this whole next sequence of events, which is that at this point, and it's quite late on at the moment, so this is usually the point in these films where you do get to see more of the monster, and you do see a little bit more of it, but it's still all close-ups and very much kind of implied things happening, but you don't see a whole lot, and I think it's still better for it.
Yeah. A golden rule for this sort of movie is like, don't show the monsters, like, just because always what happens in your imagination is worse than what you can possibly see on the screen.
Yeah.
Over explaining anything like takes away the horror always. Which is why one of the reasons I'm not keen on Prometheus and Alien Covenant. They explain too much about the alien's backstory. It stops having any sort of innate horror. I mean, because it's just this scary thing you find in space, and like space is scary. It's big. There's stuff out there we don't know about. But no, it was just made by a dude. It was made by a naughty android. Aliens invented by a naughty android.
Yep.
That's the plot of Covenant, by the way, if you haven't seen it, Peter.
I have not. I don't mind that was spoiled.
But yeah, glad they didn't go with the crab walk. Lambert stares at the alien, horrified, as Parker shouts when he realizes she's in danger. Ripley hears them on the bridge. The alien rears up slowly in front of Lambert. Parker screams for her to get out of the way so he can use the flamethrower, but she's paralyzed with fear. Parker runs at the alien from behind, but it whirls and lashes him out of the way with its tail. So, Yaphet Kotto had become so enamored with the idea of his character surviving that on set he'd started to pick fights with Balaji Badeo, the actor who was portraying the alien. And there are a number of stories about how this ended, so I don't really know what the truth is. But my personal favorite is, he politely turned down the fights a number of times, and then at one point just sort of pushed him. And of course, because he's like 7 foot tall, he's got quite a lot of push to him. And then it never happened again.
So I'm just reading ahead a little bit through your next series of notes, and I feel like you have a much better read of what's actually happening in this next sequence.
Really?
Of events than I do, because all I kind of got from it, even watching it twice, is that there's a lot of screaming and close-ups of people's face, and I didn't really have a real clear idea of exactly what was happening. I don't even remember hearing the bit about the flamethrower, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is unclear and muddy, and like close-ups and fast cuts and things to get across the urgency and the horror, I would guess.
Yeah.
But I have seen this movie more than 5 times, so I conservative guess, I would say it's got to be in the low thousands of times I've seen this film. Honestly, I would genuinely not be surprised if it was like 1,500 times.
That's a lot of times.
Do you know what? Because it's Halloween, I plan to watch the movie in its entirety slightly later on this afternoon. 1,501. Yeah, so there's a lot of action, a lot of stuff happening, but I have been able to tease apart what's going on. The alien picks up the writhing Parker and pulls back its lips, baring its teeth. The rubbery lips here, of course, are made from condoms.
Neat.
Nice.
Is that real? Is that
real fact? Nice and stretchy.
Okay.
Why wouldn't you use them? Ripley rushes down a ladder with Jonesy and a flamethrower. Parker shouts for Lambert to run as the alien fires its inner jaw through his face. So, did you notice anything about this shot?
I mean, I'm gonna say again, not particularly. I saw that the inner jaw thing fired, but it was hard. It was very fast shot again, so it's hard to see exactly what was happening.
So this is in fact exactly the same shot as we see earlier when Brett gets injured. We mentioned it at the time, but basically they just built a mechanism that fires a hooked inner jaw through a wax forehead, and it's got little hooks on the front to drag some of the gross brains outside. They're pig brains, of course.
Yep, you did mention that. I remember now.
But they use the same head for Parker and Brett. We get a quick shot of Ripley running through the corridor. The alien, standing, slowly approaches Lambert, moving its arms in patterns. So it sort of looks like it's doing Tai Chi here, which they'd actually sent Balaji Badeo to do like some lessons on to sort of slow down his movements. And it does just look like the alien is getting her ready for a bit of Tai Chi.
Yeah.
But in a very threatening way.
It's really everyone's posture that the alien is mainly concerned about.
Well, it's got all those back spine things, you know, they've got to really, really hurt its back. The alien's tail snakes in between her legs, and she screams. So, like, this bit has always led people to thinking there's like a sexual motivation here on behalf of the alien. And do you know what I find funniest about that?
What do you find funniest about
it? Those are actually Harry Dean Stanton's legs.
Okay.
It's a shot reused from earlier when Brett was like being menaced by the alien, and you can tell because he's got white trainers on and Lambert doesn't.
I mean, sure, that makes sense. There is another funny thing about this that we're going to get to later. Can you predict what it is?
No.
Okay, we'll get to it later.
Okay, cool. Oh, a weight bait. Nice. Well done. Yeah, good.
Yeah, see, it's established now. That's the phrase.
Hashtag callback. Veronica Cartwright was as surprised as anyone else that this happened because she hadn't seen a final cut of the movie and didn't know that they'd edited this in. So people were like, what do you feel about this scene? And she was like, you really would have to ask Harry Dean Stanton because they're his legs. Oh, dear. We get a POV shot of Ripley running through the corridor as Lambert's screams echo through the ship. Ripley reaches the corridor junction and cautiously peers inside. We see Lambert's foot hanging, dripping with blood, and Parker's body curled up. So,
okay.
Sorry.
Go on, say your bit.
So they actually suspended Veronica Cartwright on a meat hook here, and got her swinging and dripping with blood. And there are other shots they took from other angles that make, this whole thing more explicit, what's happened. But they didn't use them in the end, just the tight close-up of the dripping foot.
And so this is what I was going to mention. It does sort of imply that the alien also made off with her trousers and shoes. Which doesn't feel likely. I don't know, because we just saw fully clothed from the waist down. Definitely trousers and shoes there, even if it's not actually her legs. Would the alien have taken the time to remove her shoes and trousers?
Maybe. I mean, maybe it just really. Maybe that's what's sad about it. Can't get its feet into shoes. That's the subtle motivation for Alien throughout the whole thing. Is it's trying to find a pair of shoes that fit.
The whole plot of the film is that the alien is just going clothes shopping.
Well, these cloaks of human flesh don't suit me, so maybe I'll try their shoes and pants. Oh dear.
Also, I just want to bring up here something about my predictions.
Oh yeah,
which is that although I didn't quite predict this turn of events here, I did earlier predict that these two would get killed together. I just didn't predict at what point.
All right. There's no extra points for that, but fine.
I just want to say I said they'd get killed together.
Well done. You remembered a thing. I should reward you for having memories. But I won't. Ripley runs back through the ship and starts activating the emergency destruct system. She opens a hatch and follows the instructions inside, barely keeping herself together.
And we have the good old alarm again that starts going off from earlier.
So it's a pretty good emergency procedure for something that you definitely don't want to accidentally do. Like in Star Trek, you just say, "Oh, computer, start the self-destruct," and it's all like, "All right." You don't. I feel like there should be extra steps. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's a good system, and I guess it kind of illustrates, especially with what just happens, is that the difference really between Ripley and everyone else is that while she is visibly shaken by the events, she is still able to function and do things. Whereas everyone else in that last scene, understandably, but to their detriment, just kind of stood there and were horrified and died.
Yeah, they make a number of poor decisions, I think. I do feel sorry for Lambert, but I probably would have used the flamethrower on the alien anyway. Do you reckon you could kill a close coworker and friend if it came down to it being your life or theirs? Is this the sort of question we should be asking on this podcast?
At this point, hasn't the alien already killed Parker?
No. So how that scene plays out, right, is Lambert is pulling cylinders out. The alien pops in behind her. She realizes it's there. She turns around. The alien rears up, and Parker shouts to her, "Get out of the way!" Because he's got the flamethrower, but he can't use it because if he uses it, it'll kill her as well as the alien. But she's paralyzed with fear, so she's looking at the alien, and it's reared up in front of her. And Parker, because he can't use the flamethrower, all he does is throw himself on it. So he runs up to it, and it smashes him out of the way. He becomes the immediate threat. It kills him, and then it turns back around and kills Lambert. So I think in that situation, I would probably have used the flamethrower. I'd have tried not to get Lambert, but no guarantees.
I mean, I would have just hoped that the start of turning on the flamethrower would have spurred her to kind of snapping out of it and diving out the way or whatever.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I agree. I would have kind of been like, well, I like you, but this is on your own head.
I might have tried to yell some sort of warning that I'm gonna do it.
But... He does. It's just that she's captivated by its shiny face. Going back to the emergency procedure then. So in order to blow this ship up, you have to pull a handle, unscrew 2 bolts, pull 4 more handles, which open a hatch, where you type on a keyboard, then insert 4 screw plugs, pull up 4 tubes to expose 4 buttons, which you then press. That's like a lot of stuff to do, which is good in this situation. I'm all for our self-destruct systems being tricky to trigger by accident.
I mean, true, but on the other hand, if it's the kind of emergency, as you might argue it is right now, where there's some kind of time pressure.
But I mean, the emergency destruct system takes 10 minutes to blow up the ship anyway, so you've got to have at least that much time and a little bit more.
I believe we are going to come to understand that every second counts.
I'm going to steal a bit here from that blog Typeset in the Future again, where they've done a detailed analysis of the emergency sign. And it turns out it's hand painted. You can tell because there's brush strokes on the word danger.
Oh, okay.
It includes instructions in English and French, and the French translation is somewhat poorly translated. Because, of course, it predates Google Translate by some time. The instructions she follows are: punch nuclear bolt code number 1, verify bolt clamp release, perform insertion of bolt number 1 into hold number 1, remove nuclear head, activate push button switch, replace nuclear head, verify secured, verify detonation activation, and repeat for holds 2, 3, and 4.
All right.
So that explains all that flipping and prodding. I have watched it a number of times since reading that, and I still haven't quite figured out what the nuclear head is.
Yeah, it also mentions about the 10-minute timer, and that after 5 minutes you can't change your mind.
That's true, yes. The keyboard she's typing on also has a number of interesting buttons, including Pranic Lift 777, Yoni, and Agaric Fly.
What functions could these possibly have?
Well, when asked about it, the designer Simon Deering said that he needed some complex-sounding labels for the keyboard at very short notice, and he happened to be reading a New Age book which used terms derived from the Hindu concept of cyclical development, and he reused the terms on the control panel.
Of course, the basis of which most future spacecraft are designed.
Yeah, around which every ship must follow. Just interesting looking words. He probably wasn't expecting someone to freeze frame it in 4K and slowly read the words. I got to give another shout out to Typeset in the Future here, because they took a number of different frames where Ripley's hand is in different positions and superimposed them so that, you can see the whole keyboard at once. The things people will do in the future. As she follows the steps, Mother announces that the emergency destruct system is now. And and it cut off the last word, but I'm going to go ahead and spoil it for you, Peter. The last word is activated. The emergency destruct system is now activated.
And I'm going to claim victory on the timer starting now, just because I feel like it's got to start on the word now, right?
Yeah, I will give it to you, because the timer appears on the screen for the last 10 frames of this section of the movie, and it starts counting down. So yeah, all right, on a technicality, you've got the timer. Well done.
Well, the technicality is that it happens during this segment, as I predicted.
I feel for a third of a second, man. Come on.
Well, I don't care. Full points.
I'm glad you had no further justification for that. All right, fine. We'll let you off this once. And that brings us to the end of another 8-minute segment. Oh boy, we are 2/3 of the way through the movie, Pete. Ooh. So, who's infected? We're sticking with Dallas and me asking you this question, I guess.
Well, yeah, we still don't know whether Dallas is just hanging around having a lovely time somewhere on the ship.
I'm going to enjoy it when we're into season 27 of this podcast, and every episode I have to ask you a battalion of completely irrelevant questions. Peter, who do you think the nun is this week? And
Whoopi Goldberg, as usual.
And where is the ghost living now? I'm afraid the ghost was fully busted. So, I think it's the episode after next where we're finally going to get a little Dallas update. Let's put it that way.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah,
I feel like there is one coming. I just don't remember what form it takes.
Yeah, I think you might be disappointed, but
okay,
we will find out, won't we? Hashtag wait bait. There's something pretty sinister about it. I don't know. It's the fact that they rhyme like that. I'm going to have to look it up on Urban Dictionary after this podcast and see whether I need to go back and edit every occurrence of it. What happens next, Pete? That's what we ask you at this point in the podcast.
Well, I mean, I seem to recall that at some point something happens. I don't remember what happens, but something happens that means that the self-destruct needs to be turned off again.
So you think she goes through all that work to turn it on, now she's got to turn it back off?
I think she's got to turn it back off again. And if we're using real-time logic, that has to happen in the next 8 minutes, because as we saw, it's 5 minutes before it's irreversible.
Gasp.
But I also know that films take a few liberties with the timeline. So whether it actually will be during this next 8-minute segment or not remains to be seen. In fact, because the timer starts pretty much exactly at the beginning of this next eight segments, we will be able to very easily see how accurate, if it does indeed occur during the next segment, the timekeeping is on this self-destruct cancel.
That's a very interesting point. I look forward to doing it.
So I think that's on the cards, but I don't remember why it happens. I don't think that anyone else is dying at this point, so I think we're just going to be rapidly approaching the end here. Ripley is going to continue doing things that she needs to do to get the escape thing ready, and is probably going to encounter some form of difficulty that means that she needs to cancel the countdown, but I don't know what it is. I'm sorry.
Okay. So I think you answered it a little there, but we've got that one final question before the final question. I should number these in my notes. Who dies next? And I'll just remind you that the only people that we know that we've seen who are still alive on the ship are Ripley, Jonesy the cat, and the alien.
Yeah, well, I think the alien dies next.
Gasp!
That's what I think.
Wow, you don't think Ripley's gonna, be bumped off by the thing?
No, I think that both Ripley and Jonesy are going to make it. The alien is going to die, but not in this next 8 minutes.
I do think you should ding me for saying the thing there, though.
Oh, I didn't clock it. Well,
Yep.
and that's the game.
Go on. I'll let you have it. Go on.
Okay, all right. Ding.
There you go. Thank you. I felt like I deserved that.
All right. Fair enough.
That one was entirely on me. I knew it was coming, and I said it anyway.
So that was actually you're actually doing a crime there. It wasn't an accident. You're doing a saying the word thing crime.
Well, yeah, but in the same sense that, you might see that the stove is hot while you're reaching for it and just not have time to stop yourself doing it.
Right, okay.
It wasn't deeply premeditated. It wouldn't be premeditated thing crime.
You saw it coming in the sense of you'd already started the jump and then you'd remembered that you forgot to put the parachute on. Yeah.
Quite exactly,
Right.
exactly, and with exactly the same impact.
Yes. Well, the impact is later, I feel.
Right. So the final question, not the third final question. We're 2/3 of the way through, Pete, and I know you said that all the bits of the movie you enjoy you've previously seen. So we know that you're just sort of freewheeling it through these final 4 episodes. But what are you thinking of the films? Is it all right now?
I think you're being a little harsh on it there. I do enjoy the rest of this film. It's just that I think its best bits have happened. And although that said, what I would say is that given that I've seen this film a few times, and I just have almost no memory of this section up to the point where the self-destruct sequence starts. I remember that a bit. I think I've got to say that this is probably the most forgettable part of the movie to me, which is it feels terrible to say since 2 people die during it, but I think I think at this point probably what my brain's doing is going, okay, yeah, we get what's going on now. There's bad alien. There was some sort of thing to do with
ding ding ding
yep,
ding
got
ding
it. Yeah.
ding.
Yeah, I realized as soon as I'd said it, but not before.
Premeditated thing crime.
Yeah. There was some sort of plan that that Ash had, but that's all been resolved, and now it's all about the escape. And so I think probably my brain is just marking time until that escape is possible. I know just from memory that that Ripley and Jonesy are the only survivors of this. And so I guess I'm just thinking, yeah, okay, hurry up, get to the escape now. Then yes, those 2 have got to die. Just make it happen. And although the sequence where they get attacked and die is fairly effective, I don't think it's really the most memorable in the film by a long shot. So I think it just kind of washes over me a bit at this point.
Yeah, you know that they're gonna be narrowing down the cast to the final girl, and then the big countdown. So it's all just a bit of a rush, and then you're ready to go. And I don't want to belittle this sequence, and I know you don't either. But it would be interesting to get the perspective of someone who hasn't seen the film before on this whole sequence, because it must be horrifying and very interesting to see for the first time. It's just I think both of us are over it from having had seen it a million times before.
Well, not a million for me, but yeah, I get the point. It's
you know where the real money shot is coming.
Right, yeah, exactly. And if we were to put all of these segments in order so that the film gets better and better, as I outlined in my plan earlier, I think this would go probably near the beginning, if not in the beginning, and would really be a dead giveaway about what's going on.
Oh dear. Well, I guess all that words what we done had said just then. I'm an excellent podcast host. Hire me. Brings us to a swift conclusion of this episode of the podcast. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh boy, only an hour and 40 minutes. This one, geez, that's like no time at all compared to our usual bullshit. I'm glad we've bucked the trend of each episode being just a little bit longer than the last one.
Look, I haven't been watching. Let me try that again. Look, I haven't been listening to these podcasts, but
no one is.
They do crop up on my YouTube recommendations when they are released. And I occasionally listen to a little bit of one of them. And the main thing I've been noticing is just the gradual creep of that time up and up a little time. And then just there's one where it's just like a sudden
it jumps.
There's a big jump
by an hour. Yeah, I think we both had busy weeks.
Yeah. But that's how it goes. We've realized that that the introductions to this podcast have become a whole segment in itself. and who are we to deny it?
And they still haven't made them into my notes for the template layouts of the scripts.
Yeah, and so to bring it all back round, you told me to remove the that from your notes, from your template, the description of how the podcast works.
That's true,
and I am reminding you right now.
All right, remind me tomorrow.
No, I've done it. My duty is discharged.
I actually told you to come up with a better name for a weight bait, didn't I?
Yeah, but you've used it like 3 times now. I didn't even use it myself. It was you. You've established it now.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Now that you've come up with a better name, I'll go back and fix it in post. Tell us your better name now.
I don't have one. It's just weight bait now. That's all it is.
Oh, dear. Because it sounds quite like white bait, which is a sort of fish. Well, to be honest, I expected more from you, Peter.
I'm sorry I let you down, and you can just you'll just record the podcast on your own next time, I suppose.
Listeners, if you think that Peter should have come up with something in all of this time, or you have a better name for weight bait, or indeed you want to ask us anything or say anything, you can email us at podcast@8minutemovies.co.uk. And I can be found lurking in the dread corner of Twitter, Kieran J. Walsh, and he
can be found at Kestrel Pi, which is Kestrel like the bird and pi like the irrational number used to calculate things about circles.
2 pi r. I can't remember what that is. Listeners, if you know what 2 pi r is, write in. I think it might be.
I think it is the circumference.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. You cut me up, you little shit. I mean, I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll edit this out.
No, it is. It's the circumference. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Why do you say kestrel like the bird? There are no other kestrels.
Just there might be a person called Kestrel and they spell it with an A at the end. I don't know.
Oh boy. Okay, listeners, as usual, we're done with you. Please have a lovely Halloween evening and keep yourself spooky and safe. Ooh. You're probably listening to this in March.
Not relevant to anyone.
I don't care if they're not listening to it Halloween. Listeners, cue this episode up next Halloween and listen to it. Right? That's an order. I'm giving you a direct command.
Let us know if it's spookier to listen to it that way. Right, let's pull the plug on this thing. Christ's sake.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.